You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 19 of the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast. I am Jeremiah Morrell. We are on the We Are Libertarians Network. You are hearing from myself and our co-host, as always. I say as always, Dakota Davis. Welcome.
Yep. I'm always here,
except for next week, which you're begging out on me already.
I am begging out. I'm trying to make money for those studio upgrades.
So you've created a problem, and we're solving it.
Yep. I have created a problem. The problem, of course, being that here I am wanting to make a brand new studio for us. There's a lot of time that I could be working to make extra money, and of course I'm going to do it so that we can have the studio. But therein lies the problem, because in working towards the studio, I'm going to have to miss an episode. So we very quickly, had to come up with a solution, and
we couldn't miss a week we care about our listeners just too much.
No, our listeners are much too important to us to just go without an episode for a week. It's not going to happen. Not on my watch, Jeremiah.
So there's going to be a familiar voice on this show and many, many more. Welcome, Clay Morgan, who I guess do you want to accept the title of being a co-host or a frequent contributor? What level of misery are you willing to put yourself through?
I'll tell you what, if you're willing to dub me, I will take that dubination, if that's a word. And yes.
All right.
There we go. There's a solution.
Well, there we go. He's a co-host. Congratulations. Welcome.
Well, thank you. It's
that official.
That was one of the easiest.
Let me get out.
If you could take your Republican card and tear it up now, you're a co-host on the We Are Libertarians Network.
I need to get out the sword so I can, officially knight him as a co-host.
Yes.
Sir Clay Morgan.
And then the advertised guest for the show is a fellow you've heard. If you've listened to the feed, you've heard from Sean already. Sean Rao is here. Welcome,
Hello.
Sean.
Thank you for having me.
Glad that you're here. This is we've tried a couple of times to make this work, and you're a busy guy. Every time I hit you up, you're like, "Oh, I'm on vacation with the family." So
that can happen. You have a family, you have to go on vacation.
That's right.
So I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, awesome. Yeah. So the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast today is going to be Dakota Davis, myself, Clay Morgan, and Sean Rao. Our show's about our lives in rural Indiana. It's a show about folks who are interested in politics. We are always promise that our episodes are going to be fun, easy, and we interview all kinds of different policymakers and influencers in our community, but it applies to all of your communities. So we're glad you're here, and we hope to have you like and subscribe. If you hear a fifth voice in the room,
there's another person in the studio with us right now.
We've gone very big time, and the local paper, the Courier-Times or the Brisket Gazette, Travis Wyke, who you heard on a previous episode, he's here doing a feature story on the show, Dakota.
Yeah, we're headed out to get that Courier-Times bump. We're out to get the bump so that we can get more listeners in Henry County and surrounding areas, because we're just too valuable to miss. We have a county councilman on the podcast as a regular now. We've had Darren Jacobs on the podcast,
who's got 4 or 5 jobs in the county.
He just is a do-all. And
he's one election, and he's 7 years on the town council of Spiceland.
Yeah,
that's all he had to do is one election.
And
that's true.
The park board president is a host of the show.
That's true.
You
really need a government job. What are you even slacking? Even Sean's a government attorney sometimes, most of the time.
Part-time.
Public defender, and you're the planning commission's attorney.
Yes.
How many? Do you collect any other government checks, or is that the one?
No, those are the two.
They kind of offset.
You
collect those two checks, and then you pay taxes back in, so it almost nets out.
It's the circle of life.
That's right.
It moves us all.
Ashes to ashes.
So Travis is here. We'll give Travis a plug. He's got a small business in Henry County, Saved Games, which I think it's some sort of a Christian organization. No, it's
No.
he's already defending himself.
The games have been born again, correct?
Yeah, they're giving new life. It's a board game library and shop.
So there's a board game library. They're having a free play day. So if you're listening immediately after the release of this show on Saturday, September 2nd, I guess, of Labor Day weekend, they're having a free play day from 10 to 10 at their facility in the Hope Building in Newcastle on Broad Street. If you park your car and walk a half mile, you can get there. Or you can take the train and jump off at the tracks and roll twice, and you'll be at the front door.
That's true.
Travis is causing trouble. So anyway, I'm going to try to make an appearance if I can convince the lovely Sarah Potter. Dakota, we have show notes. We probably should get into those, huh?
Yeah, we probably should. So it seems like every week that we do a show, we're coming back and we're talking about the weekend that we spent together. It's been like nonstop.
Yeah.
Bam, we're going to Rock and Bowl, and then one night we're hanging out at your house. One night there's a party going on or something,
A lot of program friendship.
You even talked about watching each other sleep last week.
He just dreams about me in my sleep. I don't think I've watched him in my sleep. He's never seen me sleep, is what he said.
Yes, that's
he's
what
not convinced that I do.
Yeah.
Vampire. No, where I was going with that is I was so close, guys.
You almost got to
So
sunset on
close.
Sunday night without seeing me.
Yes, it was, the sun was going down. It had been an entire weekend. I had relaxed.
Did you have the jitters from not seeing me? Were you
I started having
withdrawals? Yeah.
Yeah, there were bugs crawling on my skin. And, it was a horrible time. No, it was Sunday night, and I was working on the studio, putting flooring down. Jeremiah sends me a text message because I had sent him a picture of of all the flooring being ripped up and everything moved out of the room and everything to put the flooring down. And he says, "Do you need any help?" And I said, "Well, it's going down really fast, but you're welcome to come over if you want to." What was it, like 30 minutes later?
I said I'll be over in 30 minutes. Not
30
a
minutes
problem.
later, and it was like, I'm putting down the floor, and then it was like, poof. Jeremiah is literally in the room.
I'm helping make it happen. I'm cheerleading.
I had no idea that you were there until you were upstairs.
I'm a shapeshifter.
It was interesting, but we did get the flooring down. I used a really nice, it's like a gray, rustic looking wood floor. It's not actually wood, but it looks like it's wood.
It's a faux wood. For north of Q Avenue, I think it's going to be just fine.
I think so too. I would hope so for it being over $2 a square foot. But it looks awesome. And we got the rug down, and my knees are severely injured because of it. I have 2 large scabs on both of my kneecaps.
I'm glad you
Horrible.
you don't put down flooring for a living, because if a 120 square foot room or whatever that was got you, you're in deep trouble.
Well, if I had knee pads, it wouldn't have been a problem. But I didn't even realize that my knees were even injured until I had stood up and I thought that there was like a piece of the old carpet that was in there stuck to my kneecap. So I went down to like brush it off, and I just ripped off all the skin. And it was in my hand, and it was like, oh.
My hand is still healing up from when we hung out the weekend before and built your laundry room. I had a big chunk of my hand that was gone, and I've still got a little bit of a scab left.
Yeah, we ran what, like 50 feet of plumbing. We did electrical work. We stacked a dryer on top of a washer.
We built a permitless laundry room in your house.
Yep, and we were all totally fine until Jeremiah takes the corner too sharp coming out of the doorway and then catches his hand on the edge of the door.
Carrying a washing machine in. Let's see. So then we did have a little bit more forced friendship time. We golfed together on Tuesday night.
Yep. That was me forcing the friendship.
It was.
That doesn't happen very often.
I had other stuff planned, and you said no.
Did. You said Eric, Lee, and Tanner Purdue are coming over to the house at 7, so I can't do anything. And I said, tell those guys you'll be there at 8 and come golf with me. And you did.
I did.
We went to Westwood Golf Club.
We summarized a little bit on the Facebook page. Got a little video. There was one hole. I was playing the best game of my life. You were playing what you deemed as your worst, or one of your worst.
Yeah, it was like being in high school again.
We were tied golf. I was about 2 over on each hole, and you were shooting. You were actually worse than me, but you kept taking my score because I was a nice guy.
Is that how it went?
I think that's the way I remember it.
Oh.
You lost 3 balls and I lost 1. So
you guys were playing each other, but you actually played best ball.
well, a couple of times.
Yeah.
A couple of times. We definitely weren't playing cart ball though. But the last hole we played, we only played about 4 or 5.
We needed a 4-wheeler to play more efficiently with the way that we were hitting the ball into the woods.
I hit one off the left side of a fairway, and Dakota hit one well to the right. He was playing the next hole on the right-hand side. So I said, I'm going to just try to knock it back over towards you and be nice. And I kicked it right into a tree line, probably the 13th or 14th hole at Westwood. And from there, it went to hell for me. And I hit in that tree line. I tried to hit out, and I hit 3 trees squarely. Boom, boom,
yeah, like
boom.
right in a row. And it wasn't even like he was like 2 or 3 yards away from the tree.
They were like 30 or 40 yards
Yeah,
off,
and
and
you
I
could
would
just-
smoke them.
Yeah. I saw one coming one time and hid behind the cart because I was like, this is going to come back and knock me in the head. And bam, no more Boss Hog Liberty.
Yeah.
It's a good thing we had Clay. I mean,
You've got a backup lined up.
yeah.
Just in case you ever get knocked out.
Yep.
Man. So this might be one of our last episodes that we record in my dining room.
Yeah. Well, that's the plan. I think our newest plan is September 20th. We want to be in the new studio.
Does that mean I get keys to your house? Or thumbprint, some sort of biometric
Yeah.
security.
There's a doorbell.
I know. I need to be able to get in on my own. I don't want. I'm not in the permission business.
I guess I can get into your house on my own.
Yeah, you've
I
been
don't
in my
know.
house without permission all the time.
I'll have to ask Audrey Joe about that.
Not even married, and he has to ask her permission to let people into his house.
Yeah, well,
Very awkward.
I'm uncomfortable just talking about it.
Made him nervous. All right. So where are we going with this thing? What's the show going to be? Now we've got a sitting Republican that you've got on the show now going forward. What do we got lined up? What's coming down the line?
So what's coming down the line is that, obviously whenever September 20th happens, we have not hit our $1,000 goal on the GoFundMe page.
We're getting there.
So we will not, unfortunately, be producing video at that time. We won't be making our YouTube videos, and we won't be doing the live stream. However, we will have much better quality of sound for the podcast.
We're going to finally get our padded room that we've always wanted.
Yep, we will be in a totally padded room. All of us will be seated at will be the Knights of the Round Table at that point, a nice white round table. And basically going from that point forward, once we get into the new studio, which is kind of like what we touched on whenever we were talking about Travis being here from the Brisket Gazette. We want to keep just how we've done. We try to keep a few local issues in. As we've talked about, like with the budget process, yes, it's a local issue towards Henry County, or maybe it's towards Newcastle, but it can be applied all over the United States. Everybody has a small town that they live in, or a small town that they're from. That
You're from a
relate
community, and you
Right.
have local government.
Yeah.
So you can address that. When we talk about national issues, obviously those apply to everybody. But when we're talking about just what's going on with your town park or your county judicial system or your county budget, everybody has one.
Right, absolutely. And I would like to see this podcast, to see our project here get to a point to where we are a trusted media within our community or within the state even. I would like to see us get to a point to where elected officials or people who are up for election, maybe you're running for city council, or maybe you're running for Congress or Senate of Indiana or the United States. It doesn't matter. I would like to get to a point to where people and their campaign managers are messaging us, getting in contact with us, and saying, "Hey, I've listened to Boss Hog Liberty. I know a lot of the people that vote and pay attention to politics and pay attention to local issues also listen to Boss Hog Liberty, and I would like to get on the show to talk to you guys so that future constituents can listen to me talk about issues." That's where I see our podcast going, and that's where I would like to take it.
They better know that we're going to have fun with them too.
Oh yeah, that's a given. Like if you're coming on the show and you haven't listened to the show, then you have done yourself a great disservice.
Jeremiah is always here to stop you if you get too passionate about a subject.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just like, hey, whoa.
No, the shiny object will distract you. There's no
Yes.
trouble.
Yes.
No problem.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm excited that we have Clay with us. Do we get discounts on haircuts now? Is that the way this is going to go?
We can definitely work something
We can work something out.
Oh, yeah.
Now I don't have to tip anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
I can get the Dakota plan of no tipping.
Exactly.
Only if you come in once a week. And I would
Well, no,
like
that's
to-
the thing is now he comes to my house once a week. Maybe he can get my hair. Maybe I can get home service in-home. We don't have in-home doctors, but maybe we can get
It's like
in-home barbering.
Yeah, it's like an old-time doctor.
Do you have one of those things that hooks to the vacuum?
We have to.
Cut?
Dear leader says we have to ignore the people that are off. A Flowbee. You want a Flowbee?
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
He wants a Flowbee.
Yeah.
That's what he's talking about. We don't do
Yeah.
Flowbees.
We ignore the people that are off mic. You just can't.
It's not my fault you're too cheap to buy 5 mics.
You're here to observe and write a story.
You know what? That's true. Can I get that comment stricken from there?
Another unscheduled. No, it's not. You've made somebody's crashing their car right now because of it. Man, he's so distracting. I can see why they don't let him on the Real Wheel
He is so
Libertarians.
distracting. I have no idea what we were just talking about.
We were welcoming Clay with his and
yes.
negotiating
That's
future
what
barbering discounts.
Yeah, he was smack talking me the other day to a lady that was in the barber shop. It was last week, and she goes in there and she goes to pay, and she says, I don't think I was able to put a tip on my card with your new app. And he said, well, it's all right, whatever. And she goes, well, I really like to tip, and I would want to give you a tip. And he says, well, you could just be like some people, not tip at all. And she goes, oh my goodness,
Who would ever do that?
She says, I would never do that. And
I really set him up.
and I said, excuse me, I do that. And
Then
she
I had
just
to
looked at me.
pat his head and say it's okay.
Yeah,
you come in
okay.
every week. So
If you want a shitty haircut, don't tip. That's all. That's the story. Wow. All right. Well, I screwed up because he did have the new app, and I forgot to tip him the last time too. But I guess I'll bring
no
that
worries.
up now.
No worries.
I apologize, Clay. It's not in my nature. Although I do have a tipping story, real quick. I went to Puerto Vallarta, Sean, up in Muncie.
Yes.
There's
Yes.
about 3 or 4 of them.
I'm familiar.
Sean sounds like he knows it well.
I know it.
No,
Poquito.
No, yeah, just a little, just a little. The Tuesdays, the special is Speedy Gonzales. I'm sure that's completely appropriate. You get a taco and a burrito and beans and for like $4.95.
Very PC.
Yes. Hey, look, whatever. Build that wall. Anyway, I go in and I have $6 cash. I have a debit card and I go in with $6 cash and I didn't try to be cheap, but I had chips and salsa and I ordered the daily special and I got a water and like the thing comes and it's like $5.08. Well, what do you do? You're like, and then the ticket comes and it says your appropriate tip is like 85 cents. As a general rule, I think I'm a dick if I just leave $1 or you don't leave $1, but I'm like, your paperwork says I need to leave whatever, and I don't want to run
It's only $5.
I know it's a $5 meal.
Yeah.
It feels. I don't know. So
my-
I guess I want to pull from the room because I'll tell you what I wound up doing, but I want to know if you go in a place, it's $6, it's $5 and change. Do you leave the $6? Do you leave the suggested tip? Do you just take your card out and pay that way? What do you do?
I would have used my debit card to pay for it.
Yeah.
Mainly because I don't carry cash.
But if you had gone in with $6,
But if I had gone in with $6, I would have used my debit card. My typical rule of thumb is if I have average service, okay, it's not great, like, oh my gosh, that waiter blew me away, and it's not the lady was spitting in my food bad. It's just average service, like your everyday Chili's or something. I generally, my rule of thumb is to add 3 to the first number of the bill.
Okay.
So if Audrey and I are out to eat and say the bill is like $26, then I will leave a $5 tip. 3 plus 2 is 5.
All right.
Interesting.
I've not heard that one
That's
before.
Interesting.
That's $200, and
How'd you
add
come
3
up
to
with
that,
that?
it'd be $5 tip.
How'd you come up with that?
No, if it's over $100, obviously, then if it's a $100 tip, then I'm going to tip them like $20 or something.
All right.
I
How'd
tried
you come
it.
up with that 3 plus?
It's what my dad always did.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mr. Rao, the question is to you, sir.
That's too much math for me. No, what I would do is leave the $6 because then you're tipping approximately 20-25%, right? Right. I'm not a math major. I majored in philosophy. But I think that leaving the $6, you had the cash. It's like a lunchtime meal by yourself with water.
Yeah.
Yeah, $6.
I did go with a group of 4
$6.
people. There were 4 people at the table.
But you were paying for yourself.
But I was paying for myself. It was just me.
$6, you're good.
Yeah, all right. Clay?
I'm using
A man in the service industry here.
Yeah. I'm using the card.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have $6 cash, I'm using the card. A buck tip is very appropriate. I'd probably leave 2.
So what'd you end up doing, Jer?
I got up. I went up front and paid, and I had the change. Well, actually, what I first did is I said, hey, guys, anybody at the table have a dime so I can leave $1? Because I knew I was going to get the change back and leave $1 and I'll feel good about myself. Nobody had a dime or a nickel on them.
Now, if I could have pulled that off, that's what I would have done.
So that was my
That
first
way you
choice.
leave at least $1.
I left it. I thought it's going to feel good about $1. Instead, I got up. I went up front, paid before anybody else at my table got up, came back, put my change on the table. And then when the rest of the people went up to pay and leave, I walked out the door, and the other guy, and one of the other guys hassling me in the group says, you have to pay for your meal, sir. I'm acting like I'm walking out and not paying at all. So I probably can't go back to the Port of Art on North Wheeling Street in Muncie, but that's what I did.
Good thing there's more than one.
That's right. I got 3. I can go back to Tillotson, and I can go to where is the other one? Tillotson. There's 3. There's Wheeling, Broadway. We're at Broadway. We're not on Wheeling. We're at Broadway, the far northeast side, over by across from Star Financial Bank. Anyway,
I don't
you
think
can
I've
look that
ever
up.
been to that one.
Yeah. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
You didn't go to
north of the mall.
Victor's?
I love Victor. I grew up with Victor.
Yeah, Victor's,
He came over from Mexico and worked in our shop and ran the shear line in the rebar plant for like a decade. And I worked with him, and then he got fed up and left and makes pancakes and gyros. Good guy.
If you're ever in Muncie,
Victor Carrillo.
Victor's Euro and Pancake House is a great place to eat.
Huge menu.
Oh.
Good dude. He also owns a bunch of the around Indianapolis, the Blueberry Hill pancake places.
Oh, I didn't know
Those
that.
are his too. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, over on East Washington Street. For our Indianapolis viewers or listeners. I heard a beer open somewhere, but it's below the table.
It is below the table.
Very weird. It's probably Clay. Probably Clay. All right, so let's get into the actual programming portion of the show. Sean, you're here. I don't know if people have gone back and listened, so we'll give you a little bit of a proper introduction. You have a JD. You're not billing us, hopefully.
No.
This is just
Not
for
at the
free will.
$500 an hour rate.
My God.
Yeah, no.
And he still has an IU hat on after all that.
I'm living the dream here. We're playing Ohio State tonight. You know, they could pull off the...
How in the hell did you agree to be
century.
here and not go to your stadium when it's going to sell out?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't be able to make it down to Bloomington tonight. Second of all, things could go south for Indiana very quickly tonight against Ohio State. So I'll just enjoy it from my
And you didn't want to have to drive home
my living
angry.
room. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
That's a long drive to drive home angry.
Yeah, I've done that a lot after Colts games.
Yes.
Monday, there's nothing worse than playing a night game, a Monday night
yeah.
football game or
Yep.
something, and driving home
Sunday night
at
game.
1 a.m.
Yep.
after your team blew a game, and it's so miserable.
Yep. I've been there.
That's why I'm giving up sports. So you are based here in Henry County in Newcastle. You're not from here. You're from Upland, right?
Yeah, I'm from Upland originally.
Up there
Grant
in the
County.
world, the land of Taylor University.
Taylor University. And I'm from there.
And Ivanhoe's ice cream.
Went to Ivanhoe's many a time. Good place to grow up.
Peanut butter milkshakes there.
Every kind of milkshake there. I mean, anything you want. It's great. But no, grew up there. Went to law school. Practicing here. Married, have 2 kids. It's just a great situation right now.
I remember your wife's name is Sarah, right?
It is,
Yeah.
yes.
See, my girlfriend's name is Sarah, so it was easy for me to remember.
Formerly Sarah Gallion.
There you go.
And I practice with Jeff Gallion.
Uh-oh. Do you work with your father-in-law?
I do.
Oh, dear God.
He's a great guy to work with.
All right.
So
No,
You
truly,
sure there's not anything else you want to say about it?
Truly, he is. No, it's great, and I work at the public defender's office with him as well. Great experience, great people there. A lot of trial experience that a young attorney wouldn't get otherwise. A lot of time in the courtroom that another attorney wouldn't get otherwise. So, if you want to practice law in the true litigation sense of it, go work at a public defender's office or prosecutor's office. You'll be in court a lot. Get to know judges. Get to learn how to file motions and argue different types of cases, and kind of get a good sense of what the system is and what's going on a day-to-day basis, because that's where things happen. That's where trends happen, So it's been a great experience. I couldn't ask for more.
So I'm going to just, this isn't necessarily in the show notes here or what we have prepared, but just some questions about being an attorney in a small town. There's, 50,000 people in the county.
Yeah.
So there can't be that many attorneys. So you've got like 2 or 3 judges, and we have 3 courts. Is that right?
We have 3 judges that are elected. We have Judge Witham, Judge Crane, and Judge McCord.
Those are our county judges.
Those are the county circuit court judges.
You probably don't deal with anything in the town or the city courts, right?
No, not typically.
Those are mostly traffic, or if there's truly something criminal, those are going to the county level courts.
My friend Mr. Lansinger is the judge of the city court, so he deals with the dog cases and those types of things, animal control.
Exciting.
Yeah.
You haven't been before Judge Susan Bell over in Hagerstown.
I have not yet. No. I stick mostly to Henry County. I'll venture out occasionally to Wayne County or Hancock County, Delaware County, but very rarely. But no, we have 3 elected judges. We have 1 commissioner that handles child support cases, and those are the people that make decisions in our county up at the Justice Center. So.
Very good. So how many defense attorneys, like from the public defense side versus, if somebody needs to hire an attorney in town, are they coming to you anyway, whether you're the public defender or not?
Well, it depends on a few things. Your batteries, misdemeanor batteries or drunk driving offenses, those types of things, those are filed in Circuit Court number 3. And so I am retained on any case that I take out of that court. And then it's kind of luck of the draw with the other 2 because those are major felony courts, so they're dealing with more serious offenses. So there are a few private defense attorneys in town, and we get a fair share of the cases filed in Circuit 3, the misdemeanors and drunk driving cases and those types of things. But primarily your major felonies are going to be handled by your public defenders in any community, just because the severity of the cases, the time it goes into it, it's just it would be
at your $500 an hour. Good luck finding somebody that's actually going to be able to afford.
You'd have to put a lot of resources towards retaining an attorney. Sometimes you have to make a decision: do I want to bond out or do I want to hire someone? Usually, the answer is I want to bond out. I don't want to be in jail while this is going on. So sometimes people have to make that kind of decision, but we have 4 attorneys in the public defender's office. I'm one of them that handle major felonies, and those are the people that typically are the ones that are going to be trying most of the cases in your locality, wherever you are.
Very good. So, in the local paper, there was an article that there was a fellow that I actually knew. I went to elementary school with a guy named Brian Kobe, 5th and 6th grade. I went to Blue River Valley, and the fellow had just been, as I understand it, convicted of some sort of a.
Well, he was set for sentencing, and then he was arrested again for a new offense.
Okay.
And for full disclosure, I do represent Mr. Kobe.
Right.
Can't really get into the details of the case, but can kind of enlighten on the bond process or whatever else.
More than anything else, I was trying to go over the high level. So as people are listening, when I had said, hey, I want to mention this, I said I didn't want to get into it if it was somebody that Sean represented, and it turned out he was, because it's a small town and luck of the draw. But more than anything else, just the timeline of how is somebody that's been convicted. I guess if you're convicted, you don't necessarily stay in jail until you get sentenced.
Well, if you're arrested, I mean, if you're convicted, you're talking about doing some sort of sentence, whether that's a suspended sentence or an executed sentence to jail or the Department of Correction or some other facility. In that instance, the case was still pending. The U.S. Constitution and the Indiana Constitution guarantees the right to post bond in cases except for murder.
Right.
So someone can be held without bond on a murder case, but all other cases, regardless of what they are, there's some sort of bond, and that's set by a local bond schedule based on the level of the offense, how many charges there are, whether the person is from out of state or whether the person lives in the state of Indiana.
Basically, their risk of not showing back up to court.
Right. I mean, you're ultimately wanting to determine is this person a flight risk? Is this person someone that's going to potentially reoffend? Those are the things that, I mean, that's the spirit of why we have a bond. We have a split bond schedule in Henry County. We have a cash bond component and a surety bond component. So the surety bond is 10%, goes to a bondsman.
So is it always 10%?
The surety bond is always 10%. Now, I've heard that the rate is moving a little lower percentage-wise.
So if the judge sets bond at $100,000, the individual has to come up with $10,000 to.
If it's all surety, yeah. But in our county, what they'll do is they'll split it so that there's some cash bond left over to pay for, if the person's convicted, pay for court costs, maybe pay some attorney fees out of that, maybe pay some amount of money to the public defender fund so that we can run the public defender's office. So it's. In my experience, that's a better way of doing things. Some of the other counties just do like a straight cash system, and you've got to post just a tremendous amount of money to bond out of jail, which I think is not should not be what bond's about. It
kind of goes against the purpose of guaranteeing a bond in our state constitution and national constitution. If you're going to set it so high that the people who are making the crimes can't post it, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, in effect, you're removing that right from most people. So that's why the split bond works better, because you have a bondsman who can be responsible for producing that person to court, but also a cash bond component, and ultimately you're paying less overall compared to jurisdictions that just have cash bonds. So in this instance, this individual posted a cash bond and a surety bond. And then there was a new allegation, a new arrest, and then that bond was revoked, meaning that
they surrendered that.
Even if he posts a new bond, he still can't bond out of jail. So if you violate the terms of your bond, expect that the courts will revoke that, and you'll be sitting in jail awaiting some other resolution or some other agreement with the state. So
gotcha.
So back to the Brian Kobe thing. The reason that I brought it up, put it in the show notes, is because I'm a member of a lot of the groups that have, like on Facebook and stuff, that have to deal with Henry County. And you being a public defender, I mean, there was a lot of outrage surrounding this particular case, and that's the whole reason I brought it up, is because, I mean, doing what you do, there's got to be a lot of times where there is public outrage like that. And I mean, how do you face a situation like that?
Well, you always got to keep in mind that it's not about necessarily what they did in order to do my job. It's about what the facts are, what the evidence is, what the law says. If you're negotiating a plea offer, what the maximum is, what the minimum is, where can we find some common ground with the state? Can we work this out? Do we need to go to trial?
Right.
And ultimately, you're there to be a safeguard to that person's constitutional rights.
Right.
And as somebody that's very like-minded with you all, that's my favorite part of my job, is being able to assert my client's constitutional rights.
Right. And I remember when you talked at the our area convention, you were the guest speaker at the Libertarian Party district convention. She did a great job at, by the way.
I appreciate that.
But,
Thank you.
I remember you talking about that. Like,
from the live studio audience, we do have a Labrador.
Yeah, you were talking about how that was one of the best parts about your job, was guaranteeing constitutional rights for your clients. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that, if someone's Fourth Amendment has been violated by illegal search and seizure, I get to assert that. If there's some issue with, say, like a resisting law enforcement or something like that about speech, there's potential free speech implications there as well. So that's what you have to keep in mind in all of these cases, whether it's somebody that did something that you think really isn't that bad, like maybe a marijuana possession,
right,
or if it's somebody that did something that you think is truly, horrible. That doesn't matter. I mean, ultimately, everybody has rights, or nobody has rights.
Right, and that's one of the biggest things for me. Whenever I talk to coworkers, friends, family members, that they talk about what should we need to. This person needs to be locked up. We need to bring back stocks in the square, and public executions and all this stuff. And it's like, well, and it's just like that Michelle Carter case, whenever she was texting her boyfriend, and she's telling him he should kill himself, and he ends up committing suicide, which is a horrible, horrible atrocity. All of us can agree that was a horrible thing. And she is a truly despicable person, and she needs to have some type of psychological evaluation because of that. But she still has rights. She still has the right to free speech. She did not go into the car and start the car and end up taking his life from him. She didn't do that. She still has rights, even though we hate her so much. And that is the biggest thing for me as well to forget whenever it comes to guaranteed freedoms.
I think a lot of that public outrage too comes out of ignorance about how the system works. I think that if people could actually watch the judicial process on a day-to-day basis, not the way it is on TV, not the way they think it should be, the sort of retributive justice, and actually experience the process, or even maybe have been wrongfully accused themselves. I mean, that's a life-changing event, to be wrongfully accused of a serious crime.
Right.
That can change or ruin your life. And people, the public, I think it's ignorance and it's a lack of education. I think that we sorely lack civics education in our society. I think people just don't know how government works, and I think you guys are doing a great job bringing people in from local government to explain, how budgets work, how the justice system works, how these things operate, how local government works. And people don't get that.
While we have a local budget official here,
Oh,
do
man.
you guys have enough money in the public defender's budget, or do you want to make a pitch?
Well,
It's budget time.
I'm not in charge of the budget. I get my paycheck as long as my paycheck keeps coming. No, I think that the biggest concern that I would have is just the caseload number as it relates to child in need of services cases, because those across the board, not just our county but the whole state, we're looking at a huge increase in these types of cases, and all those cases require 1, 2, 3 public defenders. And it's a huge time crunch, and it's a huge burden on that office, because there's only so many people to go around, only so much time in the day. So I guess insofar as that goes, that would be my concern going forward. I think that we are treated better than most counties in Indiana as a public defender office, because we actually have an office, we have a chief, we have some accountability.
It's not all just subbed out.
It's not just all, it's just not all to the next guy on the list. There's some continuity there. I think that benefits the clients, and I think that we provide a public service that most people don't need, and most people don't think about it.
Not like Better Call Saul whenever he first starts out being a lawyer and he's a public defender.
Well, in some localities, that's the way it goes. I mean, some counties, that's the way it goes. I will receive some conflict cases from, if there's a conflict with other people, sometimes they'll farm those out to local attorneys that way. But the Better Call Saul thing, where he tries the case with like 3 defendants, and he wants to get paid per defendant, not per case, and he's fighting with the clerk. I just love that. Yeah,
there's actually about 2 weeks ago, I would say, as we record this, so sometime in one of the Sunday mornings in July, the CBS Sunday morning show did a whole profile on public defenders. I don't know if you saw it or not.
No, I missed that.
I'm sure it's still on their website, but really good, going over Louisiana and some of the issues that they have down there, and the number of caseloads, and covering some communities where the public defender is just now meeting their clients as they're in the courtroom for the first time, and it's just it's terrifying. It was awful.
Man.
Awful. And then, of course, they found a couple of cases where they were poorly represented and they were convicted and shouldn't have been. So it's just it's something that's been in the news. So the timing of you being here is perfect. And I'm sure it's always an issue, but there's definitely been some high-level stuff, high-profile stories on it. I had to go refill my beer. I was out a minute ago. And I stole one of Sean was here. He also had mentioned that he's into craft beers. So I got a local craft beer from someplace in Ireland, I guess it is. It's called a Guinness.
Yes. I just thought it would go a little better with conversation and a little nod to one of my favorite podcasts, the Men in Blazers.
There you go. Now this one is different though. This is a Guinness Drought. Is this a different specialty can, or is this?
Yeah,
it's the same thing. It's just a special can today.
If you read on it, it says
I don't read.
It says
visual.
That the can is meant to celebrate the famed Guinness advertising campaigns of the 1930s through the 50s.
Yeah.
Oh.
I just love their artwork. It's beautiful.
That's really cool.
The drink is just perfect for conversation and just enjoyment with friends. So,
well, we appreciate you. I completely just went up there and stole one and took it.
Oh, absolutely.
And
That's
I
what it's
stuck the other stuff in the fridge so it'll stay cold.
Did you know that Jeremiah is a huge Guinness fan?
I did not know.
I
that.
am. Yeah,
okay.
I've got the glasses and
Yeah,
I can do an Irish
know
car
that
bomb
now.
on the
When
weekend as quick as anybody.
When I came in here, I saw the proper Guinness pint. And
That's right.
Which
there
one's
it
the
was.
new glass, Jer?
It's in the dishwasher. We had a small accident with young Tanner Purdue. Very recently turned 21 and came over and destroyed one of my Guinness glasses.
Oh, no.
So I showed him the pack of 4 to buy, and he said, "I can't do that. I'll just get you one glass." And he got me one. It's the smaller version. It's the micro Guinness version. So
Oh, is it?
yeah, it's good for the 12-ounce bottle, but not the
It
not
won't
the pint.
hold the full pint then.
I haven't tried.
You also brought Gumball Head, which is a true Indiana craft
Yes.
beer.
Yeah. So Gumball Head is made by Three Floyds up in Munster, Indiana.
Up in Lake County in the region.
Up in the region. So that was something that came to mind on August 31, a warm August day. No, but Indiana is just such a great hotbed for craft beer. I mean, there's great craft beer breweries everywhere. And I think it just goes to people wanting to exercise their independence, their individuality, their choice, and I think the market has totally responded to that. There's great craft breweries in Muncie. I'd suggest New Corner and the Guardian Brewing Company up there.
Yeah.
Make fantastic beer, and so it's right around the corner for people, and it's local, and you get to meet the people making your product, and get to talk to them about the process, and it's educational. It's interesting to see their businesses grow. It's interesting to see their workforce grow and see that economic
And it's
development
delicious
side of
on
things.
top of all of it.
That also helps.
I've spent a lot of time hanging out in Greenfield at the Wooden Bear Brewery over there.
Yeah, I haven't made it
I
over
like
there
Wooden
yet.
Bear.
I've
Yeah.
never been there, actually.
Well, you've only been 21 for 6 months, so
Yeah, I've seen it a few times, but I've never actually been there. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to go, though. But we do actually have an article talking about our craft beers, and we love them because we can have them. And just as you were saying, we were talking about enjoying our freedoms to express your individuality. Sit back with your friends, drink a craft beer and a Coke Zero, Clay. And basically how this all came about is deregulation in the market.
So in the 70s, they deregulated airplanes and Budweiser. Is that what happened?
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. I mean, if nothing else, Jimmy Carter should at least be known for this. I mean,
Amazing president.
Billy Beer. Maybe he did it for his brother. Is it? I always knew about Billy Beer, but I didn't know this story that's coming.
I think that he's known for being one of the only presidents to have not won a re-election. But I think that he should be known for deregulating our beer market.
Do you know what Billy Beer was?
I have no idea what Billy Beer
It
was.
was the president's brother. His beer brand.
He made craft beer. Well, he made beer. Let's say. I don't know what craft beer was like in the 70s, but it probably wasn't anything close to the way it is today.
Growing up, my grandfather had a can or two, and I think
So they
he
sold
drank
it
one.
nationwide?
Yeah, he lived in New York, and they were from Georgia or whatever. And my grandfather, Poppy, had one, and I always remember how awful he said that it was. Of course, I don't know. He drank Busch Light, so it's hard to know. Hard to know what he wanted, what it truly was.
I'm sitting here drinking a Hamm's, so I can't say anything.
Hey, that's a craft
Actually,
beer.
It's pretty good. I mean, it's really light. It's refreshing.
There you go.
What more can you ask for? It's like drinking a water. No, okay, we need to get back to this craft beer story. Basically, here's what we have. A blogger by the name of E.D. Kane He's the one that wrote this about Jimmy Carter and deregulating the beer market. There's a nice graph that goes along with it too as well. But if you're looking at this graph like we are, it's showing the amount of breweries that are in the United States. Basically, obviously, through up to 1928, there was like none.
Yeah, from Prohibition.
Because of Prohibition.
And then you've got like a big hockey stick. From 1979, when they deregulated, they went from having less than 200 breweries to about 2009 is where the data ends, and they've got just under 1,800 nationwide. And I bet we've far surpassed that now in the last decade. It's been just another phenomenal growth as it's caught on.
Right. And that's what his whole thing was. Basically, because of Prohibition, we were still, the government, I'm not saying we as a nation, but the government was still very uncomfortable with the idea of allowing its citizens or its constituents to have alcohol. So what does the government do if they're afraid of something? They regulate it. We make them go before a planning commission before they can have chickens. Yeah. Now, you're scared of chickens?
Shout out to Darren Jacobs.
Yeah, you're scared of chickens? Make people come up in front of Darren Jacobs and ask for chickens. And if you're scared of alcohol, then regulate the market. So basically, that shut down any kind of brewing or anything that could happen on a small scale. It's just like what we've seen with car manufacturers in the United States, pretty much. If you're a small auto manufacturer, you want to get into the game or you want to get into the cell phone game, you can't because you'll be dominated by the big dogs up top. It's so hard to get into that. You just can't do it, and that's basically what the government did for the breweries that had money. They were able to upgrade their equipment. They were able to meet all these regulatory standards, and therefore they were the only people that survived through our regulatory prohibition.
The dog is just a terrorist. We need a new home, Dakota.
And we're going to get one by September 20th.
Man. All right. So
so Jimmy Carter in 1979 decided that he was going to relax the regulations on the alcohol industry. And it's basically like how we started what we were talking about with Travis before the podcast even started. I had to take a second there to remember if that was on the podcast.
What's
or
on the record or off the record.
Yeah. But we were talking about that with him and with wineries. It started out with wineries. Wineries are tourist attractions. Therefore, they can bypass all these laws and stuff that were on the books for alcohol producers. And then essentially it ended up getting into beer. States started taking it over, and then now we have 2 or 3 breweries in every town in Middle America, and it's awesome. I mean that is a great thing. If the next time that someone makes an argument against deregulation, that is the go-to
just
right there.
Point to the craft beer industry,
yeah.
And it creates jobs too. Clay, your last council meeting, you had a group come in that is growing hops. They're going to have the biggest hops farm in the state of Indiana, right here in Henry County. They already do, right. I guess, and they're continuing to expand expand.
Yeah, and that's one thing I was going to say. I mean, that's the thing. Obviously the joke with me at the table with everybody drinking beer and I'm drinking the Coke Zero. But beer aside, one thing you see that's obvious is when you begin to deregulate. I mean, it opens up for just the common guy to practice a craft or to use his hobby to make an income for his family, and then who knows where it'll go from there. And it's like what you mentioned right here in Henry County. We got some hops growers that, and I don't understand.
Wait, is it White Horse? Crazy Horse. Crazy Horse Hops Farm.
Crazy Horse Hops Farm, yeah.
And is it Ryan Hammer? Man, I'm
they're wanting to,
Hammer.
Ryan Hammer.
Yeah.
And, they're wanting to expand. I mean, they've already got a huge farm going. They've already sent their hops to several of these places, and they're wanting to be again, fuzzy on all the details. I don't understand it all, but they actually want to begin to process the hops. Right now, they send them somewhere else to be processed, and then they go from there. But they actually want to be one of the first ones to actually process the hops, and so it's which will only just expand what they're doing, and they're looking to just in the next few years to add several employees and really just kind of grow. And the thing is that there's a lot of potential for growth because they're the first one.
Very good. So that covers the craft beer portion of the show. This is the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast. Jeremiah Morrell, Dakota Davis, County Councilman and guest host Clay Morgan, and our guest today, our featured guest, is the one and only Sean Rao. A couple other issues that we wanted to talk about locally here. Just a funny little. If you read our paper, it's nonstop humor, and I don't think Travis means for it to be, or the folks over there. But August 23rd, I'm just going to read this out loud, and everybody can realize that I put this should have made national news. Police report, August 23rd. The Newcastle, Indiana Police Department responded to a harassment call, but no offense took place. Friends were texting each other and started insulting each other about who was prettier and more attractive. They were told to leave each other alone.
Does it not sound like teenage girls?
I really wish Sean had to go to court over that.
I would have loved to have gone to court over that. I would have asked for a jury trial tomorrow. Let's go. Let's find a crime here.
Subpoena.
You can't
subpoena some text records.
Me. You can't say things like that about my hair. I'm calling the police.
Yeah, what's amazing is how common this type of stuff seems to be. I've got officers that come in the shop, and they will get called on because so and so said something bad about them on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Oh, my gosh.
Exhibit A, Becky's hair this week. Look at that. Awful. Just awful. Nuts. Oh, man. Yeah, so
I called to the stand, Becky. Becky, your hair looks terrible. Does it always look like this? Yeah. I rest my case.
Truth is an absolute defense. So, I mean, there you go.
Oh, man. Luckily we didn't have to, they didn't get arrested and get put in jail because ours is apparently too small and we're overcrowded. We talked about that a little bit last week.
Very much so.
Very overcrowded. So, what should we be doing? Like, from your position as you're in this every day. I'm a layman, obviously. I try to follow as best I can, but I'm a plucky rebar salesman that has a podcast. Thanks to deregulation, by the way, I couldn't have this 20 years ago because I would have had to buy my way on the air of the local 1550 radio station. I'd have 50 people listening at a week instead of pushing 1,000 all over the world. What should be happening? I know that a lot of the folks that are in the county jails now previously would have been at a state prison. So they would have been like at the Newcastle or Pendleton State Prison. And now they get to stay in Henry County Jail.
Can I say one thing before we get on to the government side of things?
Sure.
Here's what always gets me, and I want to say something earlier, like you were talking about the CHINS cases, because I've been hearing about the overload of our CHINS cases, child in need of services, and I understand we can't regulate this or mandate this, but if people would just behave. Seriously, just behave. Just have some common sense. Just get over it. You know what I mean? Like we just talked about, the feelings getting hurt, and you call the police. Give me a break. People, now my rant won't last long, I promise. But give me a break, because the very people who cry against government and government over controlling everything and taxes and then behave.
Yeah. Yeah,
a
absolutely.
huge portion of our budget goes to serve those people.
To deal with the knuckleheads.
Anyways, that's my piece. Just behave.
Stop being stupid. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll start sending Clay out with a little wooden paddle.
There you go.
And he'll just start spanking people.
Hey, who was that one lady, that older lady over at Scooters,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Denise.
You got a spanking, apparently.
I did.
I don't mind.
Anyways.
No.
Anyways.
I mean, there's I think it was Daniel Tosh or some comedian said judges are parents for people who didn't have any or something like that. That's true to some extent. It's so much of what we do, if you just stayed inside in your house and you just didn't do certain things, you wouldn't be in the system. A lot of that is that. A lot of it is just substance abuse. There's a good portion that's just mental health problems that we don't have adequate.
Right.
we don't have any adequate system for that whatsoever in Indiana, unfortunately.
And that's much more of a problem than people.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're in my job, or if you're a caseworker at DCS, or if you're a prosecutor, if you're just the average person that has a neighbor that has a real significant substance problem or a significant mental health problem, you know that it will just keep going and going and going until either they get arrested or something else terrible happens to them. Right. So,
and then that creates more of a problem sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we're talking about all this right now, and I happened across a post on Facebook. It was a man who commented on a Henry County Area Drug Task Force post.
I saw this today.
Yeah, and I'm not going to mention the guy's name, even though it's not scribbled out. It says, "How about the law enforcement? The law enforcement do what us taxpayers hired them to do. Stop asking for help. LOL. Figure it out yourself and do your effing jobs." And then the Henry County Area Drug Task Force commented back on it and said, "Well, apparently we have been doing our job, blank, blank. You have been involved with the police in some type of capacity 21 times in 2017.
Great.
Hilarious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, back to your point about the jails, what do? I mean, there's no magic bullet. I mean, we have good leadership here in the county, with the sheriff, with judges, with the prosecutor. We have good people that are working on this problem.
Right.
The problem is it's just like any other problem with government. You have finite resources with a problem that can't be met by those. So
well, it's obviously not a Henry County problem. It's something we have to deal with.
No, I mean,
but all of our surrounding counties are building more jails. It's not new to us. Rush County's building one. Delaware County is still in the process of looking.
And if we don't,
Marion County's trying to.
If we don't, we're going to be shipping people up to these other county facilities and paying a very pretty penny to house those people there every day, every week, every month. That the Henry County taxpayers probably aren't going to want to pay.
Right, and whenever I was doing the research for making the show notes and everything, and we have a couple articles out here, but I had the point in here about the jails and what we should do about it, and so I just did a quick Google search. Jails need redone in Indiana, just our state, and it was endless. Like it seemed like. Well, we have 52 counties in this.
92.
92
counties in Indiana.
And it just seemed like every single county was talking about how their jail needed to be either redone or needed revamped. And I'm sure that some of them are past and they have been redone or whatever. But I mean, it's an endless problem that we have. I mean, and it's not because necessarily. I mean, it's really easy to sit back here and, as a libertarian, make the case it's because we have so many laws. More laws only make more criminals. It's easy to make that case, but if you were a
nonviolent offender, if we didn't put you in jail, that would solve an awful lot of it, in my view. And once again, I went to business school.
I don't disagree with that, but I think we also have jails are de facto mental health institutions now. We don't have nearly the resources for people that are mentally ill.
We don't have county homes anymore. We don't have what was the Newcastle prison was a state hospital for that type of application. Whether or not you like the way that operated or not, those facilities there aren't beds, there aren't facilities for people in those conditions.
And right. What Sean said, that's one of our major issues is we've and I know in the state of Indiana, couldn't tell you when it started, but over the years, funding was taken away from mental health. So over the course of time, by default, the law enforcement became mental health.
Yeah.
And so now our jails are loaded with both.
Our cops are more militarized than they ever have been, but they are also your psychiatrists. Yeah. That's the way it is now. And like I said, it's easy to make that case, and it's easy to draw the conclusions there. But another thing that needs to be thought about is how much has our population in Henry County grown since the jail was built?
Not that long, because it's only been 1992. We're probably a smaller county than we were then.
But
sadly,
that's got to be everywhere, though. I mean, our population is growing exponentially everywhere. I mean, it just happens as time goes on. And there's no way to like foresee that. Obviously, our jail, if our Henry County Jail was built in 1992, then it shouldn't be so outdated to where we're at the capacity that we are now. But I mean, there's things that need to be done with that.
Yeah. Well, and I could definitely talk on that, but the question to Sean, and that's I was interested in hearing what he thinks about that, because being on the council here locally, we do have issues, and I've been in contact with the sheriff just the past couple of days, and talking about shipping people out. It's going to cost the county a pretty penny.
It's going to happen.
Yes, we are facing some very serious issues that can take a big chunk out of that county budget that's already hurting. And so what do we do? It's a very there's no one answer, and it involves many different departments. But I was interested in hearing what you was getting ready to say about all that.
Well, I think that we're going to have to make a decision here. Are we going to build a new jail? Are we going to try to revamp some other facility that we already own, like out at the park? The
Shell building?
Dakota's suggestion last week was the Shell building.
The Shell building.
Well, if it's good enough for Delaware County, isn't it good enough for Henry County?
We like to think we're a little
maybe
better.
Maybe we just need President Trump to pardon more people.
There you go.
Well, if he starts pardoning nonviolent drug offenders, I'd be okay with that.
I mean, he already pardoned Sheriff Joe.
But again, those nonviolent drug offenders are typically doing time in DOC. Now, what
Right.
the legislature has done, and the legislature has not helped us with this, is they push more pressure onto the county. So it's more and more difficult for your level 6 offenders, who are by and large the highest number of types of offenders, because they're the lowest serious felony that there is. They have to be housed in the county jail. And back in the day, you could put them to the Department of Correction if it was a D felony under certain circumstances. But it's just so much pressure based on what the legislature has done, and now the DOC population has decreased significantly. So now we have facilities in DOC that aren't all that full, and we have county jails that are exploding.
There was a hotshot legislator from southeastern Indiana in Brookville that was responsible for that, and he had a good career going, and then he got caught up in some sort of a terrible scandal as well. His career ended, but he did leave us with that legacy.
Well, I mean,
and I know he was applauded at the state level for that, because it was actually the criminal justice code was there were huge changes that came through about 3 years ago.
Yes, there were. Yeah, we went from A, B, C, D felonies to 1 through 6 felonies. So there's a lot more. What I like about it is there's a lot more authority and flexibility with the judges, so that the judges, we don't really have mandatory minimums like you do in other jurisdictions, like in federal court. You don't really have people that have to go away for drug dealing for 50 years. Whereas under the old law, if you dealt drugs, if you dealt 2 pills or a pill within a certain area, 3 strikes and all, and that type of thing, you were in trouble. You were facing up to 50 years for dealing 1 pill for $5. I mean, that is insanity.
Yep.
And so, to their credit, they changed that, but to their detriment, they said, well, we're going to save the state all this money, because we're going to take all this, we're going to decrease the population of DOC,
Department of Corrections, the state jail.
Yeah, the state prisons. And we're just going to, let the chips fall where they may. Well, I mean, it's still the counties that have to pay for it. It's still Indiana taxpayers that have to pay for it. And they need to fix that immediately. Otherwise, we're going to run into significant crises with federal courts saying that you've got to fix this, or worse. Or
we're already
more
seeing the forerunners of that.
Yes.
I mean, we're already, it's kind of like, education. Legislature screwed around with education for so many years. Okay, well then now we're starting to see a shortage of teachers. It took a few years, but now nobody wants to be teachers.
Right.
Yep.
And so it's the same thing. We have some issues that have been created, maybe good intentions, but they didn't look far enough at the repercussions. Well, like you said, we're seeing the forerunner of some major problems coming in the criminal justice system. And I appreciate our state standing economically. It seems like we always rank really high in black and white numbers. But one thing that I do see at the local level is the state can brag about those numbers, but yet we have local governments and municipalities that are going into debt and having to borrow just to make it. And now with the criminal justice issue, again, we're seeing counties all over the state have some very serious problems with overcrowding and inadequate housing.
Well, we'll leave that issue there for now. For the we're probably not going to solve the local jail overcrowding, but I wanted to highlight it a little bit and talk about it and try to gain an understanding. It's a continued theme for us and from libertarian sides. We always view things as if you ended the war on drugs, there'd be a whole lot. The root issue of probably 80% of the people that get wrapped up are people that are either involved because something's illegal. It creates a black market, and then you end up in this cycle. Whether it's somebody that's buying drugs, or you have violence associated with it, or it's
more laws make more criminals.
All of these things come from that. Whether I never touch them, wouldn't touch them, legal or not. I have a private contract with my employer that says I'm not going to smoke marijuana. Whether marijuana is legal or not, I'm not doing it because I like my job. The fact that the government says I shouldn't do it doesn't affect that. But there are people that choose to ignore that and get in trouble, or we have heroin and all the the other truly terrible. Heroin and methamphetamine obviously are some of the biggest issues that Henry County faces. I'm sure that's a massive part of what you see.
Let me get one more thing in on
Sure.
that. We're looking for other ways to solve these problems. So locally here, we're starting problem-solving courts. I'm working with the prosecutor and Judge Crane on that. And it's been a great privilege of mine to do that. And we have a veterans court for veterans that get into criminal trouble.
Why do you have a different court? What's that mean?
It just means that it's not a separate court. It's still in Henry Circuit Court number 2, but it's a separate program. So we have one that's just for veterans, and if they have a battery case or OVWI, or if they're a habitual offender, whatever, we'll look at them and see if they're eligible for our program and potentially get them treatment, get them hooked up with services, get them hooked up with the VA. We're looking at starting a drug court, so looking at more treatment rather than not. And I can tell you privately, people that are involved with the system are very concerned about the population. They understand that 200 people in that jail is untenable. And I think that they're trying to do that by changing that by putting more people on community corrections or probation or some other form, trying to rehabilitate them. And I think problem-solving courts are things that can really help people because it's all focused on treatment. And if you don't do it or if you don't follow through, you lose the privilege of being in that type of program. So I just think that there are people on all sides that are really trying to tackle this program and taking it very seriously.
And before we end that topic, that's
Sure.
one thing I was going to comment on is because I've sat around the table with Sean on some different committees, and it's one thing that one of my favorite things of being a councilman has been it's given me access to the criminal justice system because it's for some reason it's just near and dear to my heart. I just think there's a lot of things that could be corrected. But I can say honestly, with Henry County, we've got a lot of good people, whether it's in public defender, prosecutor, judges to probation, our officers. I mean, we have some pretty good, solid people. And when we come and we sit around that table, there's some very open discussion. And we have two things that I'm a part of that I think is great. Deals with juveniles, Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative, where we find some other alternatives instead of just throwing our juveniles and locking them up. And then also we have a criminal justice coordinating committee that has been established to deal with some of these issues that Sean has just talked about. And it's great that we have some like-minded people serving here in Henry County in the criminal justice system. So I think in the future we could definitely see some progress. So
Absolutely. Let's just hope we can tackle this problem, because people are trying. We're putting our best effort towards it, and let's just see where it goes from here. Take it day by day.
On juvenile detention,
Yes.
I see that as a tremendous thing. I'm on the council, and I try to advocate for that. We got some funding issues there. And so I'm trying to prepare for the future on that as far as just being an advocate. Obviously, I'm just one of 7. But and the commissioners have to play a big role in that also. I see that as a tremendous thing for our future.
Yeah.
I mean, we've already seen some minor changes, and the reason I say minor is because we just have such a low population.
And we don't detain many kids in general.
Exactly. So do you see what I see, though? Do you see that as long as we can continue in this process, the meetings you've been involved in, that it's going to make a very positive impact?
I think so, because, I mean, juvenile cases, that's the first involvement with the system, and you hope it's the last that these kids have. And we try to detain less kids than unless we have to. I mean, it's sometimes juvenile delinquents need to be removed because they're a danger to themselves or a danger to somebody else. But by and large, your run-of-the-mill marijuana possession kid doesn't need to go to emergency shelter.
Right.
He doesn't need to go to some other non-secure facility. And I think that the juvenile probation, I got to work with them, those people, for a few years when I started. They're fantastic, and they really do care about kids. And I think that initiative, Judge Willis started with that, and she really had a heart for kids while she was here. So, and still does over in Indianapolis. So.
Dakota's gesturing wildly, so we'll turn the floor over to him.
We have to move on.
Yep. We're going to talk about Hurricane Harvey.
No, we're not. We're going to talk about Sheriff Joe.
Oh, we're going to talk about Sheriff Joe.
Yeah, we'll cover
now?
that real quick. So the old man made people wear pink underwear in Arizona. He defied a judge's order in 2011. Was found in contempt of court. Lost an election. Was convicted, and then our president, in his busy schedule, flew down to Arizona and
I just think that is a horrible thing.
And got involved. First president to issue a pardon in his first year since George H.W. Bush in I guess it would have been 1990.
Really, I had no idea.
That's interesting.
It's uncommon.
Did you guys see his speech that he gave about it?
Well, the one where he mentioned some of the Clinton pardons and the Obama pardon. Yeah, I saw that.
I will say this. That is the most presidential I've ever seen Donald Trump.
He became president today.
No, really, he was. He was very professional.
He handled himself in the speech well.
I mean, in a typical Donald J. Trump speech, you're going to hear him say, well, my people are telling me, unlike what you people are doing, which is spreading fake news, my people know what they're doing. You do not know what you're doing. That's a typical Donald J. Trump speech. He didn't do that. He was very professional. But he did call out some of the pardons and questioned the pardons of Bill Clinton, and
this is the thing with Trump and his supporters. It's the whataboutism. What about what Obama did? What about what Clinton did? It's like, no, let's look at the thing that's going on right now.
Let's not look at the fact that this guy stepped on the Fourth Amendment rights of damn near everybody in Maricopa County, Arizona.
Everything that he's done. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was disgraceful. I thought that there was just no way. There was no remorse shown, which is usually something that presidents expect people to show. Is, I'm sorry for what happened. Just pure defiance. And it's just, he just pardons his buddies like it's a banana republic dictatorship.
Okay, but here's the deal.
Joe Pesci over here in the corner. Do you know what Joe Pesci is?
No, I have no idea.
Did you ever watch Home Alone?
Yeah.
Harry and Marv?
Yeah.
He's the guy that got burnt.
Oh, okay.
And he was also in a number of gangster movies. But anyway, I knew you'd get the Home Alone one.
I got
Goodfellas wasn't the first.
Well, no, for him though, for somebody of his age.
No,
Man,
I don't know a lot.
I'm getting too old for this shit. Mel Gibson and Danny Glover and Joe Pesci were in all of the Lethal Weapon movies too.
Really?
Yeah, wasn't he in Lethal Weapon?
I don't know. I can't.
Anyway.
One way or the other for that. I don't remember.
Okay.
Clay, can you help me?
I don't remember Pesci in. Well,
I don't remember him in Lethal Weapon.
yeah, no, that's why I was trying to think
Yeah.
too. Yeah, I don't.
Thought
remember.
maybe I'm going crazy.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I think anyway,
been a long time,
I'll
though.
look it up.
Okay. It's
been a
Dakota,
long time.
continue
So-
on with your show. With your show,
I
dear
don't-
co-host.
I don't know much about this whole situation. I read a Reason article about it, and basically it was just talking about how we need more presidential pardons than anything.
Lethal Weapon 2, 3, and 4.
Ah.
Not the first one.
Not the
But-
first one though. Okay.
Okay, so we're talking about Sheriff Joe here. He's an old man. He lost his election. He has no power.
He's like 85 years old.
Yeah, what did pardoning him hurt? Like, what did it, or is it more of a symbolism thing?
Well, it hurt. I think her reputation with people, with the Hispanic community, with people that care about the rule of law, because he was convicted in federal court for criminal contempt, not just like a civil indirect contempt of court, like where you give the judge the finger or whatever. He's talking about criminal contempt, meaning that
Right.
there was some mentality of criminality that he would not follow that court's order. And Trump, in my mind, he does not care about the rule of law whatsoever. I think that he cares about getting the outcome that he wants. I think he cares about trying to use his sort of tabloid strategies on judges, on lawyers, in order to get his way. I think that he was just totally thumbing his nose at the federal judiciary, which, they have long memories too. So, he needs to keep that in mind when he's doing that to people. Just like the judge in Indiana that he said couldn't be fair because he's Hispanic, or whatever the case was there.
Do you think the Trump thing was more of a thumbing his nose at judges, or do you think it was more of a Barack Obama thing? Kind of like Barack Obama's the one that did this. I'm gonna
Or a kickback to an
the-
early supporter.
The judge that convicted him was a Republican conservative. I mean, he was somebody that
he
wasn't an Obama appointee.
Who prosecuted him? It was prosecuted
federal
by
government.
the Arizona District Court. Or
Yeah,
something.
U.S. Attorney's Office out there. To me, a lot of Trump's mentality goes back to Obama, because that's where I think he got really political, was with the birtherism and with the other stuff. So that's always going to be somewhere in his id to motivate him. But I think at the end of the day, he was great friends with Joe Arpaio. Joe Arpaio was one of his first supporters. And he was going to, help his buddy out. And that's just not the way a president should act.
Did you see whenever he was talking about him at the rally though? And he says he's talking, of course it's a rally of his supporters. So, I mean, what do you expect? But he's like, what does everybody think of Sheriff Joe? And the guy's like,
He tells him, Sheriff Joe, you have nothing to worry about.
yeah, and he goes, I'll tell you, Sheriff Joe has absolutely nothing to worry about, and I'm not going to do it now.
Just stay tuned.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not going to do it now because I think it would be bad press.
Clay, are you ready to condemn the pardon of Sheriff Joe yet? Being
What's that?
being the good Republican soldier you are, or do you have to wait outside?
well, I'm just processing it all right now. Listening to the,
you have to check with Mark Warner and
I'm
see if you're
listening to
allowed.
Yeah, right. I'm really taking in the legal expert's opinion here now. So.
he legally absolutely could do that. I mean, that's not
Yeah,
that's
right,
not
right.
something
It's
that
completely
I
within
I
his
would
purview.
contest. Absolutely.
Sure.
Now, whether he should do it or whether he, what that means when he does that.
He can pardon any federal prisoner he wants.
Yes.
And
now, if they're
for any-
convicted in a state court, he can't do that.
But any
That's-
federal,
yes.
the state courts would be Governor Holcomb or Governor Kasich in Ohio or any
or if
whatever
somebody
state.
got convicted of possession of methamphetamine in Henry County, Indiana, he can't do anything about it.
Right.
But I just think that it just sends such a signal to people, leaves such a bad taste in their mouth when he does it. I think the Friday as the hurricane is hitting Houston, Texas, and he decides he's going to do that because it's going to give him good ratings or whatever.
Yeah, that's exactly what he said. Like, that's his words. He says, I did it Friday because the hurricane was hitting and I knew all the news stations would be running and people would be watching the news. And I'm like,
it's despicable.
Oh my gosh.
It's despicable. It's just, it's so callous. He's so calculating. He's not a dumb person. Like, people think he's an idiot. He is not an idiot. He knows how to sell people.
Yeah, I think the word you use, calculated, is a good word.
He's been playing this game since the 80s with the New York tabloids and trying to, he's in trouble now financially, and then he's out of it, and then he's starting up this new casino, and then he's getting in trouble with this, and somehow he always gets through these things. And he's a survivor. He's a political survivor, and he's somebody that just never went away. And but with this pardoning, I can't see.
And that was such a good point that you made about the effect that it has. It leaves the taste it leaves in the mouth of people in Hispanic communities who were, maybe they're starting to come around because maybe their dad or somebody came over here illegally or something, but they have a small government mindset or they have a more conservative mindset, so they start thinking maybe what Donald Trump's doing is not that bad, and then they get punched in the gut by this,
I think he told him he was building the wall. I think maybe we're going to build the wall and make Mexico pay for it, or else we're going to shut down the government unless the government doesn't pay for it for me.
Oh man! So we'll move on. We'll ungracefully move on from the president.
All right,
who did make a trip to Houston, I guess, but a lot of different media sources have covered.
And those shoes that Melania wore. No, I'm just.
She wore tennis shoes.
Let's talk about the shoes, guys.
No, that was a real article in Vogue.
I saw she got on the plane wearing high heels, chain shoes, and wore tennis shoes. Whatever. Yeah. We've got bigger problems in the world.
Yeah, did you see
there's price gouging.
The picture of the woman who wrote the article?
No.
She looked like she came out of a cartoon. Did you see it, Clay? Yeah.
Yes, I saw the picture. It was.
You read the Vogue?
I do not, but I did see the picture, the headline, and I was wondering if it was not real.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I mean, it's like so crazy that I was wondering if it was a joke.
It's hilarious. It's so funny. There's never been a more accurate picture. Like if you were to Google feminism and Google images, this lady's face would pop up. I mean, we've all seen that satire video with the lady who says, I cut my own bangs asymmetrically and it helped me conquer my white privilege. I'm pretty sure that she did that unironically. This is her. That's so funny.
I don't know. Those sorts of things, they're fun. They're fun little stories, but I don't care. There was a story that came along. Best Buy and some other people have been selling water at marked up prices, and everybody gets up in arms and freaks out and flips out and says you're price gouging.
Yeah,
you do it with gasoline, you do it with water, and nobody complains. First of all, if you charge $3 for a bottle of water at Disney World or at a football game. But the water that you normally sell for $1 a bottle in a Walmart, all of a sudden, if you charge it for $4 or $5, it's a huge freak out, and the government tries to step in and say you're price gouging, and you're not allowed to do that. And I guess the libertarian viewpoint on that is that you're actually kind of the hero, Clay, if you do price gouge, because you create scarcity or you create a market. It's just like if you have if you're trying to get a hotel room. Dakota and I, we're planning his bachelor party. And it's market-based pricing. We're going to have a bachelor party for Dakota in November. It's a football weekend in Nashville, Tennessee. Normally, a Airbnb is $89 a night, but because it's a football weekend, we're paying $250 plus the fees each night for the place. So instead of us getting 4 or 5 rooms and everybody having their own space, we're getting one place and we're going to cuddle up real nice. And Dakota's going to finally get to watch me sleep.
I thought this place had 3 bedrooms.
It's got 3 beds.
Maybe,
I don't know.
Maybe Dakota will see.
It's all
sleep
negotiable.
that night.
Yeah, perhaps. At least one of the nights. At
I
some
doubt
point.
it. I
I don't
doubt
know if I can go like 80 hours straight.
You've never seen content, Jer.
It's true. Maybe if you come for Chris Bengel's birthday here in a couple weeks.
Right.
You'll
I
get
saw
to
that. I saw that.
We gave you the official invitation. Sean, you can
yeah.
come too.
I've got the invitation in my inbox.
Yeah.
Your boy-
I had to figure out what it was first.
Your boy Bash Kreider came to one.
The
He had a
Bash
good
man?
time. Yeah.
I'll bring him next time.
You should. He's been here before.
Yeah.
We may actually big festival coming up for Henry County. He's grilling over in
Yes.
Dublin, I guess, the Dublin Pike Festival, and he's
No,
got his
Farmer's
deal.
Pike.
Farmer's Pike.
Farmer's Pike.
Yes.
Have to be clear about that.
Between here and Dublin.
Yes. So if you want some barbecue, go out to Farmer's Pike Labor Day weekend.
That's right.
I
Get
go
from
out.
the Bash man.
I go out to Farmer's Pike to get the.
He buys he buys the puppy mill dogs.
I did last year, but I usually go because there's a little food truck there, and they have alligator gumbo.
Oh, that sounds
Oh
good.
my gosh.
That sounds really good.
It is so good, like the perfect amount of spice, and alligator is really good, and it is. That's good stuff.
All right, so we always get distracted by shiny
So
objects. in
speaking
food.
about Creole food,
no, we're not done with my story yet. You calm down.
We're talking about price
patiently.
gouging.
Price gouging.
Price gouging first.
So we were talking about how for your bachelor party, we're paying an extra fee, and what that does is it creates us, instead of taking up 3 or 4 rooms in a weekend where people need rooms, we're buying one because we're paying the market price, what the market says it'll do. If the market price were half, we would take 2 rooms, or we would take two groups. Same thing happens with water. Same thing happens with fuel. So if you're allowed to go in and say, hey, fuel prices are spiking right now, instead of being $2.50 a gallon, we're going to charge you $6 a gallon. Clay, you're not going to fill your tank. You're going to get exactly what you think you need to have and no more until prices come back down. And it's rationing. The government doesn't come in and ration for you. The market does it. And it's a perfect market. And if Sean, if you charge too much money for your lawyer fees, what's going to happen?
$1,000 an hour.
$1,000 an hour.
Well,
Who's gonna support you?
nobody's going to support me. Well,
Right.
the government might.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. When there's not a market, then
But again,
they'll pay
those
what you
fees
say.
are set anyway. So there you go.
And that's one point that you made that a lot of people don't think about because they're just thinking about themselves and that $4 water bottle.
Right.
In reality, does it make that store or that seller more money? Sure. And I think that's the problem with some people. Because they're greedy. Let's face it. A lot of people are just greedy, and they're like, well, if I can't have it, they can't have it.
So you also have the guy that says, "Hey, I live in Southern Illinois, and I can go to my Walmart and I can put it in my truck and I can take this water and I can drive into a dangerous place,
right? And
it's going to be worth my time and effort to truck this water 800 miles or 1,000 miles, and I'm going to go sell it for $4, and I may make $2 a piece on it." But damn it, I've provided a service by putting something somewhere that it would not have been anyway.
Sure.
And the only reason I do that is because I'm going to get more money. If I go down there and then I get arrested in the state of Texas or charged because I'm charging too much money for water, then I have absolutely no incentive to do that the next time if there's a hurricane in Florida or Mississippi or Louisiana or Texas.
Well, and it helps, again, to emphasize on the point you were making, it helps more people in this case get water.
Right.
Instead of one family buying up all the water, everybody gets some water.
Exactly. And you've got the opportunity. Of course, people can come down and donate, and the private community steps up and does that as well.
Well, and I heard this case presented today as a show I was watching, The Blaze. They were talking about... I'm
not familiar with The Blaze. What's that?
Yeah. They were talking about that very thing. And... the point they was making is look, if there was a kid sitting here dehydrated and they're selling water for $10, do you think they're going to demand $10? They're probably just going to open up a bottle and give the kid some water.
Of course.
You know what I mean? So
people are going to take care of people.
That, to me, and this is the philosophy that drew me into libertarianism. And it was one of the videos that Austin Peterson put out.
Austin who?
Austin Peterson, who is now running for...
He's running for the U.S. Senate
US Senate.
in Missouri as a Republican against Claire McCaskill.
Yep. And but he ran for president, in the presidential primary, I guess is what you would call it, for the Libertarian Party in 2016. And he, in one of his videos, he talks about libertarianism, volunteerism, and free markets, and he says the core basis of my belief is the belief that people are inherently good. No one wants to see another person fail or another person be miserable. And I believe that everyone has it in them to want to help take care of their fellow person. And that resonated with me so quickly. That's true. Like, no one wants to, no normal person in our highly functioning society says, I would like to see people be miserable. That, if you do that, then...
Normal being the key word.
Psychopaths. Psychopaths feel like
so
they
that's
want people to be happy.
But you want to set up society, as we're doing the master planning here, Dakota. You want to set up society in a way that's set up for the vast majority of people, and you need to deal with the people that are on the fringes as necessary. When people like Sean get involved.
Right.
The main point in that is that people can be trusted whenever it comes to situations like this.
Breaking news: the football game is already over by the time you get this, but I believe the IU Hoosiers just took the lead against the number 2 team in the country, 7-3 with 7 minutes to play in the first quarter.
That's not.
Yeah, knocking on wood like none other. But
You should have been down there, Sean.
Lee Corso's partying on the sidelines, and the Hoosiers are doing all right in the legacy of Trent Green.
Let me give
Let's talk about how...
couple thoughts about price gouging. Does it matter if it's an individual versus a Best Buy that doesn't necessarily care or need the money? The individual that sells like a generator for 2 times what it's worth, I kind of get that.
Sure.
The corporation that sells it that already makes millions and if not billions of dollars.
Right up on your microphone for me, Sean.
Why? Yeah.
Because you still only have a limited amount of inventory. I don't care that they're making a profit. I care that they're setting a market price so that it's going to efficiently allocate the resource. If you only have 500 cases of water in your store, and you sell it at the price you sold it for a week before the hurricane came through, and Billy Bob comes down and buys it and wants to just store it and keep it and isn't going to get it in the marketplace, you want to make it at a point that he is going to only buy what he needs. Mm-hmm. And that's what the free market does.
Okay.
So that Best Buy, the resources that Best Buy has are properly allocated by the free market. I don't care who owns it or who actually controls. We're talking about a fraction of the profit. If they doubled their price, who cares? Whatever.
It's a very emotional thing, but if you take emotion out of it, it just kind of is what it is.
Right.
If you apply logic.
But it's the same model Uber uses, right? Yeah. If you go use you use pricing. Uber on a Saturday afternoon in Indianapolis, you might pay $5 for a ride to go a mile or so. But if you want to go use Uber on a Sunday after a Colts game and get picked up from the same location, it might cost you $30 to take that ride because there are only so many cars around, and the pricing says the people that really need a ride right now are going to pay it, and otherwise they'll wait 15 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, and they'll get a ride later when the supply and demand have corrected themselves.
And does it matter that the price gouging statutes typically are anchored to some sort of state of emergency or some other declared national emergency? It's not like they really care what you're selling water for when it's a sunny day, but when everybody's underwater, does that matter? Does that factor into what you're saying?
I think the price gouging laws ought to be gone.
Across the board.
Of course, across the board.
Yeah.
The market will take care of it. Yeah. And then if you're a bad actor, I will use my platform, my podcast. Travis will write about it in the paper. Everybody has Facebook. Everybody has Twitter. Everybody has Snapchat and Instagram. Yeah. We can publicly shame you if you truly are bad.
Right.
And we say that Best Buy is awful and they have terrible practices, then we're going to shame them, and the market's going to fix that too.
There has never been a more efficient time for free market capitalism to take root and work as intended other than the 21st century.
Because of communication?
Right.
Okay.
The availability of the pen, so to say.
Sure.
So I don't know. Dakota, you had another direction you're trying to drive us here.
I just wanted to talk about
I'm off of my soapbox. You can now step up on it, sir.
All right. And now we're getting a little bit farther away from the political side of things. We're just going to talk about the cold hard truth. And that is
politics isn't the truth. What?
Well, it just depends on
What?
I've been spitting truth all night. I don't know what you guys are
Truth
talking about.
bombs everywhere.
Truth bombs left and right.
He's been dropping more truth bombs than
smells
George
like-
W. in the Middle East.
It smells like
are
Riley's
love
been
bombs.
dropping other kinds of bombs throughout here. Man. No, this is basically comparing Katrina to Harvey, and I came across this article that was like packed full of so many like golden information nuggets today, and I couldn't resist putting it in our show notes. But I guess New Orleans is not as big of a town as what I thought it was. And has anybody here ever been there?
Never have.
I believe we have an arrangement that we're going to go next year, Dakota.
We're going next year.
You and
yeah.
I, first time together.
Me and you and our lady friends.
And our ladies, that we're gonna. We have a sworn blood statement that we're gonna throw up on Bourbon Street together the first night.
Nope. But I guess that whenever Hurricane Katrina hit in New Orleans,
You'll bring the baby, right?
there's not going to be a baby.
$50 on the line.
Yeah. There's only like 455,000 people there.
391,000 is what I'm showing. That is a tiny city. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, and today,
pre-storm.
well, pre-storm it was 455,000. Today it's below 400.
Yeah,
is what I have.
Okay.
But Houston
Fourth largest city in America.
is boasting a population of more than 2 million people at the current time. So there's a huge population difference there, which is just incredible because I had no idea. That totally blew my mind because I've never been to either city. So I had no idea
I changed
what
planes
to
at
expect.
Houston Hobby once. That's the extent of my time at Houston.
But,
which I believe you need a snorkel at right now as well.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
But Katrina was also a Category 3 storm. It measured 350 miles across. By the time it had already hit land, and they decided that they thought they might have categorized it wrong. So it was possibly a Category 4, but officially it's a Category 3 storm, measuring 350 miles across. Hurricane Harvey, whenever it made landfall in Rockport, Texas on Friday, was a Category 4 storm and measured 200 miles across. It was expected to linger for days, but the National Weather Service said, "This event is unprecedented and all impacts are unknown." Which is scary if you're living in Houston. You know, like, what does that mean? Like, we have a hurricane that's going to be more severe than Katrina coming to hit us, and the National Weather Service doesn't even know what's going to happen. And
the expectation is that this storm is going to be the most expensive in U.S. history, more than Hurricane Sandy, more than which was the storm during Obama's administration in New York, in New Jersey, more than Katrina, more than the last storm that hit Houston.
Casualties in the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah,
is what I
no,
gather.
That's not possible. Hundreds of thousands of deaths.
That's what they were told to prepare for.
Okay, I don't think they're at that point yet.
No. They're
at like 50 or 100 at this point.
Yeah, that's what we're getting to.
You can infer what you want.
Katrina was responsible for 1,833 deaths, and I personally have had the opportunity to work with a lot of people that went down there after the hurricane to help restore power, help restore service and things.
I heard Joel Osteen went down to New Orleans.
Did he?
No. Another hurricane he failed to react to.
So like I said earlier, when you get real passionate about a subject, there's always Jeremiah.
Oh, yeah. There's always Jeremiah coming in and throw you off. And but these guys were talking about how they would be they're trying to work, and they would be next to what was supposed to be a very shallow like creek or something, and it was a huge riverbank, and there were dead bodies floating.
Yeah.
As they're trying to work, and they said there's a picture hanging up in our office of a McDonald's straw that is stuck into the side of a pole because the winds were so strong. Wow. And I mean that's incredible to me. But anyway, 1,833 deaths. It also inflicted more than $100 billion in damage. It left 3 million people without power across the region.
The worst part of these storms isn't the wind. Like a tornado here, obviously wind is destructive, but it's the rain and the water and the flooding.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is what truly causes the devastation to these areas.
So there's, at the time that this was written, there was just over 10 deaths. I don't know if it's gone over that.
Yeah, I think they're closer to 40 now.
Okay.
But it's going to take months to have actual numbers,
Right.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
But obviously, Houston's economy is obviously in a lot of oil and natural gas. It says right now that it doesn't appear to have been seriously compromised because they had a lot of procedures in place and safety measures to help protect them and their the integrity of their system, which is like actually really interesting to me because the company that I work for also produces natural gas, so that is like so interesting to me. I really want to read more into what they have in place to keep.
Blank of
oil.
Earl Electric, I believe, is the name of the company, right?
What? Earl Electric?
Yeah, it's a song. Anyway,
I've never heard it.
I know
I worked for a company called Sydney Electric once. No. I also worked for a company called Houston.
Send me electric.
Sydney.
Oh, gotcha.
I also worked for Houston Electric.
Yeah,
Huh.
there you
So
go.
there we go. And there are 300,000 people out of power currently. I also know some people that are going down there.
There'd be some overtime available down there.
If they called me tonight and said, pack your bags, you're going to Texas, I would be gone.
You're going.
Yeah. I would love to do that.
It's just the Jeremiah and Clay show here for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, right.
I was begging. I begged my boss to let me go down to the Carolinas whenever they had their bad tropical storm. Nothing.
few quick things on the hurricane that
Certainly.
I think has helped us see is one, in putting everything in perspective, it shows that Americans are good at our heart.
There have been an incredible amount of pictures and videos of people pitching in
Exactly.
and guys with bass boats that have been lined
Sure.
up trying to get down there to rescue folks.
Let's take
Yeah.
your bass boat down there,
Yeah.
Jer.
So,
If I didn't have such a busy weekend planned.
and it goes back to what we say where people want to help people out.
Yeah.
And it really shows the heart of who we can be. And the other thing is we don't know the impact. I mean, that it's going to have in the next few months to come. Obviously there, but even across our economy, what it does to oil prices, things like that. There's other things at play there. And then I had some really good points I was thinking of here as we were talking about that. If I could just recall them right now. So but I was trying to give Dakota his due, but no. The other thing I was going to say is this. I do remember is preparation. Honestly, I mean, preparation.
You need to have your Glen back
You
food
got-
storage bags
You
ready to
do.
go.
You need
Have
to
that
have
bug
your
out bag, folks.
freeze-dried food and your
Hey,
water ready.
I have a bug out bag in the trunk right now.
There you go. You never know.
It's got 5 days of food for me and Audrey, and it's got water purification tablets, a life straw.
What about the rest of us?
Yeah.
Oh, we're on our own.
You're on your own.
Exactly.
I
Supply and
got
demand.
I got room for me and Audrey and my dog.
I got a couple bags of freeze-dried
You're
food.
down
I'll
a
sell you
dog.
for
You'd
20
think you could have
bucks
a
bag.
co-host with you.
She's a big dog.
I'm a big co-host.
Okay, back to Hurricane Harvey here. This is something I found really interesting. Houston did not call on residents to actually evacuate the city. They were calling on people to stay in shelter in place where they were.
So the last time they had a major storm, I believe Houston did ask people to evacuate, and it did not
Right.
go well. I think
No.
Houston's a city that's just too big to evacuate, is what they've learned.
Yeah.
And it just
they're-
didn't. They were going to have people stuck on the interstates, which then later, they look like river channels. Unfortunately,
Exactly. That was the whole concern with everything. The traffic was going to get backed up on the interstates. The interstates were going to flood because the waterways that they have for these were going to be overflowed, and then you have thousands of people drowning in their cars. That was the situation. They ended up making a good call, obviously, because they've gotten over 50 inches of rain and more to come, which is crazy to me. But also, my last point here is that almost 1 million households received individual assistance from FEMA. There were 275,000 houses destroyed in Katrina. and 1 million households received federal aid afterwards. Houston, it is FEMA has estimated at this point that 450,000 people are likely to seek federal aid. What would happen there in a libertarian society?
I think you're seeing the Libertarian Society kicking in right now. The volunteerism and the people that are getting involved in dealing with things, and you have a lot of private charities that are stepping up. And I know almost every small community that we have is loading supplies and dealing with is sending supplies right now. That's the Libertarian answer. We have a
but there's
on the back end.
If FEMA is estimating 450,000 people, then obviously the volunteerism answer hasn't worked for those 450,000 people.
An awful lot of those folks are going to have an insurance issue when it comes to flood insurance and homes that they're displaced, and the long-term solution of not getting through today but rebuilding your life. And I know that we get involved an awful lot in flood insurance, federal flood programs, and you don't have a true market there. And a lot of the involvement that you're going to see from the federal government is going to be in the rebuilding stage, and it's because you can't just go out and get insurance on your own. The only flood insurance that exists is federal flood insurance, which means that you get in line like you're in Venezuela.
Right.
Am I wrong?
No, I think you're right on that. I think that it encourages development in these areas where, for different reasons, maybe we shouldn't be encouraging development. I mean, I'm all for the people of Houston, and I pray that they come back, but there are incentives to the point where people who used to work with the federal government are saying, look, we're incentivizing rebuilding this area that's going to get hit again and again and again with this flooding. So it's just throwing money at this problem that won't go away until we realize that maybe we shouldn't have this expansive city in an area that's just the strike zone for hurricane season. And that's just an expanse of concrete with nowhere for the water to go.
Yep.
That just like you said, the fourth largest city in America.
That said, I mean, if in that area, but the lowest amount of water anybody's received is 28 inches of water so far. 28 inches of rain have fallen. I don't care what you do. You're not dealing with 28. It's just a shitty storm, and you're going to be underwater. And there are areas that have been over 50 inches, which is 4 foot 6 inches of water.
It's like a 500-year storm. They keep saying
it's unbelievable. So that no amount of planning, no amount of you're just going to have a flood, and it's going to suck
in that area.
Yes. And that's just the reality of it. And if you have places that don't flood typically don't flood. Like I live here in White Estates. I don't live in a floodplain. There's a floodplain there's a creek that apparently has raw sewage going into it. Apparently, whatever. I always end up in the middle of the stories, and my neighborhood has raw sewage. So the creek that carries the raw sewage, it is also a floodplain, and it's never reached my house. Yeah. But if we had 48 inches of water, there's a good chance that my driveway is going to have it.
But the likelihood of you getting 48 inches of water in Newcastle, Indiana are extremely low.
Very minimal.
Regardless of what you think about climate change, regardless of what you think about these different patterns.
Right.
It's just not going to happen.
So that's the risk we take. So I choose to not have flood insurance. I don't have flood insurance. I have homeowners insurance. I don't
even know if you can get flood insurance. I think it's all subsidized by the government.
Yeah, I think that's the deal. Is you can only get it if you're in a floodplain, and if you're not, then you can't.
I think so. Yeah, and that going reverse back, I think that's where he's going with it. If it wasn't, again, we're here. I mean, so it just is what it is.
Right.
But logically, I mean, realistically, if you could go back and you could eliminate the government subsidizing, then people wouldn't build close to these areas. Now, again, I
don't think we're not going to solve this one today, and I know
exactly.
We're dragging on in the podcast here with Jeremiah Morrell, Dakota Davis, Clay Morgan, and Sean Rao on the Boss Hog of Liberty. But if people go to Reason Magazine, they've got John Stossel. He's left Fox Business Network, and he's doing a lot of reporting for them. When he was at ABC News, he was a consumer reporter, and he had a coastal helm in the Northeast, and he had 2 or 3 times where he was hit and rebuilt and was the beneficiary to these types of things. He's come around and obviously has different views now as he's become more libertarian, but he shares that story. So I would encourage people to go over to Reason and check that out, and it's a great encapsulation of flood insurance and the way that works.
Or
if people are more interested.
Or you can just go to MVP Barbershop and see all of my old Reason magazines.
Have you dropped them off?
Not yet. I'm going to start doing it though.
I've got quite the collection over here as well. Of
He's
Reasons.
got a new magazine stand set up
We
in
do.
the shop, and I think I'm going to
We
start
do.
taking them in there.
It's awful nice of you. Very, very progressive.
Reading vintage Reason magazines.
There you go.
Well, good deal. Well, I think we're at the point where we probably need to start going around the table for final thoughts.
I agree, Jared.
Sean, I don't know if you listen all the time. I don't know. We're 19
I do listen
episodes
some,
in.
Yes. I have
So
listened.
this isn't a complete total shock to you that we do have final thoughts. It's your chance to plug something. It's your chance to promote something. It's your chance to wrap up anything that you've forgotten or that I cut you off rudely. The floor is yours, sir.
It's just been a pleasure to be with you guys. I really appreciate you guys extending the offer to be here and being gracious hosts. And I just want to send out thoughts for back to the hurricane for the people of Houston, and just hope that turns out to be a situation that people can thrive and survive. And it's just amazing to see the stories out of that. So nothing to plug. I'm in Newcastle. I'll be in Newcastle for a long time. So if I hope you don't need me, but if you do, I'll be around.
Hit up Galen and Rao.
Galleon and Ralph. Galleon. Yes.
Like the people that bought Dick's that was purchased by Dick's Sporting Goods.
I suppose so. Yeah.
Yeah, Galleons. All right. Mr. Morgan, the frequent contributor co-host until he resigns in shame from the show. What you got?
Oh, I've enjoyed tonight. It was interesting to sit with Sean and hear some of these his comments on the issues that we're currently facing, and so even hearing him speak continues to give me hope for the future, and so that's great. And like him, with people in Houston, we kind of got off on a little bit of a flood insurance thing there. These people don't care about flood insurance, right? I mean,
they have a need that needs to be met.
They have a very serious need right now, and so it's easy for everyone to sit back and be that armchair quarterback, and but it is awesome to see the people going down and helping, and I know I keep thinking, going over and over in my mind, how could I help, or maybe send some money or something, or who could I connect with, and they're going to have issues for a long time. So, but anyhow, that's really it. So definitely want to keep praying for them, and it's easy for us to forget about if we don't have it in front of our face. So.
Yes, sir. Mr. Davis.
Well, let's see. My final
Now, these
thoughts.
final thoughts have to count double because you're not showing up next week.
Right. Yeah,
It's going to be my first Boss Hog Liberty without Dakota Davis.
My first thought for the evening is Clay forgot to mention his new Facebook page.
Oh, that's right.
Dad Bod 40.
Dad Bod 40 on Facebook.
Dad Bod 40.
I gave it a like. I think there's about 7 right now. We'll see what kind of Boss Hog Liberty bump you get.
There we go.
People that made it to the darn near 2-hour mark.
Dad Bods 40. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Is there a swimsuit edition coming along?
I'll be on the swimsuit calendar
I thought
for
about
Dad
it.
Bods.
I thought about it, kind of a little bit of fitness part to it, but yeah, I felt bad. I felt like the Lord convicted me because I didn't want too many women lusting.
That's fair.
I didn't want to ruin any marriages.
It might just be the women lusting. You don't know.
That's the 21st
really,
century.
Really, why I did that? It's really just an outlet for me to share about. It's really kind of for me.
Yep.
It's an outlet for me.
Now
You're like Mike
you
Birbiglia
did
with
have
his
an
secret
issue
private
with
journals
the
to
boys
share.
while I was at the barber shop.
Oh, yeah. That's a whole nother.
The one son was coming out to get you because he was obviously mad at the brother for something.
Oh yeah.
And he opened up the door real quick and yelled, "Dad!" And then he went to slam the door, and he slammed
Right on his hand.
right on his hand.
Do you keep them pinned up in the back room, the old realtor's room in the back? Is that?
You need to get
back
like
there, but yeah, they come out. I mean, it's.
There have been many times I've walked into the shop and Clay's son is in the Big Joe beanbag chair, watching Going back.
Poor kid.
Train them in the way they should go.
You get so much more time in there. You're in there 4 times what I am with your weekly cuts, and I'm in every 5 to 6.
Yeah.
It's that Thursday to Friday, 8 to 5 hours he keeps that I have to take a vacation day to go get my damn haircut.
One of my boys decided he wanted to. Well, he didn't do it on purpose, but he broke my 100-year-old vintage barber chair today. Snapped the foot plate right off that sucker. It's toast.
Little JB Weld will be right back together.
JB Weld. Yeah.
Dakota, what else you got?
Just like I always say, add me as a friend on Facebook, and it would be awesome if people would donate to my the GoFundMe page. We've raised about $200, which is huge.
Fantastic.
Which is huge for us, and that is why I've set the goal for September 20th, because if we get another $100, obviously that's not going to be enough to cover everything for the YouTube videos and stuff that we want to do. But it is going to be enough to get the studio done, and we can start doing the podcasts in there. That's the soundproofing, and that is the table and the chairs, and we have all the other equipment.
And we'll have a permanent location. Yeah, this week we've added. I went out and got I got a 4-channel headphone amp, so we each participant can have headphones. Went out and out of my pocket, I bought that. Picked up another set for Dakota. So we're always adding equipment. At some point, the microphones are probably going to need upgraded because I can't get everybody to talk straight into them. So sometimes we get a little hollow. I get up and start turning people's heads, getting them to talk right into the mics. But we're going to make some upgrades there at some point along the way.
Yeah. So that's a huge help for us.
Yep. Fantastic. And we've got the floor down. We've got lighting's coming. There's just the tile's going to go up.
Lighting's coming?
Well, I mean, it's something that needs to happen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. For sure.
I'm so excited to find out what Christy Avery bought us.
She got you a rug. You bought a rug, and she's going to have your rug.
Yeah, she's going to have the rug.
And you're going to have
Christy,
2.
If anybody goes onto the Box Hog of Liberty wish list, do not buy a rug. I already bought the rug. I found it. I was able to find the exact same one at the Home Depot, so I don't need it anymore.
You need to update it and take it off there.
But if Christy bought me the rug and she doesn't want to take it back, I will gladly take the other rug and take mine back to the Home Depot.
So they can follow Dakota at Dakota at BossHogOfLiberty.com.
Yep.
From my end, real briefly here, a couple things to promote. If somebody does make a donation, $50 or more, you make it on the GoFundMe page. Send me an email, Jeremiah at BossHogOfLiberty.com. Let us know you made that $50 donation. Either Dakota or Tanner Purdue will be your personal drink maker. I open up the liquor cabinet and we'll cover you for the night. So you don't have to bring your own beer. We'll have the mixed drinks ready for you, and you'll have your own server. $50 value.
Christy
did that.
Yeah, she did that one time with Tanner.
Yep.
And he did a good job
For not knowing what he was doing, being underage.
He was only 20 then, but he did a good job.
But now he's 21, and he's
21 now, and he's educated.
He's been to Scooters like 4 times in the last week, I heard.
That's what he told me. He told me he's been going there for dinner like crazy.
Yeah. Other thing to promote, September 11th, Clay, you got to add this to your calendar. We Are Libertarians Live, Morty's Comedy Joint in Indianapolis on 82nd Street. $5 to get in. Clay will comp you. You're part of the cast now. We'll get you taken care of. Sean, you got a carpool. We got the Tahoe. I can hold 7 if you want to ride down with us.
I've got the Pacifica now.
Oh,
so
there you go.
I have all kinds of room.
Tons of room.
It is a great time. The We Are Libertarians live shows are so much fun.
It's a lot of fun.
And it's at Morty's, and they have the top shows. And they're so good.
There's a full bar. It's an old Don Pablo's restaurant that's a comedy club. Northside takes about 45 minutes from Newcastle to get there. If you want to go, let us know. We'll ride over together after hours. There normally is a little warm-up comic, and then you'll get the We Are Libertarians big show, along with probably an appearance by Dakota and myself, if not more. So,
is that true? Is that really happening?
Yeah, we're on stage.
We are?
Yeah. Don't bitch out because you're the show.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
this just in. Breaking news.
Yeah,
Dakota has to go now.
It's a big night. Yeah, you're featured. You'll be on stage at the Morty's.
All right.
So yeah, look for that. Like the Facebook page, we really are. We're gaining tremendous momentum. An announcement about the show in the last 6 days. The episode 18. Has had as many downloads as any other show we've done in the history of the show. So in a week we've done that. We've started to do some video stuff, promote, share. just bringing attention to it. I know this Courier Times article is going to be big for us locally. People have there's a segment of people that understand what a podcast is. There's another number of folks that are like, "What the hell are you doing? And how do I get it? And why do I care?"
I had no idea until you said something to me about them.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm a millennial.
You're a young person.
I'm the oldest
How do you
millennial
not
on
know
Earth, and he's the youngest, I think. That's
I've never had an Apple product, though.
well, I don't either, but I
Yeah,
use
you can still get podcasts.
Podcast Addict on the
Yeah.
Android is what I use.
Sure. SoundCloud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Podcasting kind of sounds like something you do in a garden.
Well, maybe for a Gen Xer. But yeah, we're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, we're on TuneIn Radio, any podcast app you have, you got the RSS feed. Coming soon to the YouTube, Facebook Live before too long if the money keeps flowing. So we appreciate the support. Like us, definitely on iTunes. Like 75% of the downloads are on iTunes still. So Apple dominates that world. We definitely would like you to rate us in there as well. 5 stars, of course. Don't bother with the 1 star. Go the full 5, just like the Uber rating. So anyway, Jeremiah at bosshogliberty.com, Dakota at bosshogliberty.com, and someday when Clay's really committed, we'll get him a profile on the fireside, and he'll be Dakota.
I told him
Clay
it would be by the end of the week. But
Man,
Oh, the
you're
countdown's
setting,
on.
You're setting
Thursday.
unreasonable expectations.
It's Thursday.
But I also told Jeremiah, if I told Clay by the end of the week, then that means by Thursday night I'm going to be telling you, hey, you need to get Clay.
This is the last time we'll see Dakota for a while. He's going to go work 80 hours straight just for this podcast. So
82 if everything goes good.
as long as you, as long as
long
you
as the
don't,
plan goes good.
as long as you don't upset the union committeeman. All right. Well, we'll catch up with you all next time. We appreciate you listening, and we have guests lined up for the next month. So look for a weekly show. Unless something goes terribly wrong, you got a lot more Boss Hog Liberty coming your way. We'll see y'all next time.
Thank you for listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Get our other shows at WeareLibertarians.com.